All right, we are here at Jackson Barracks, the Louisiana National Guard Barracks, to visit the National Guard Museum and specifically to
special
see...
exhibit.
Yes.
The Pelican State goes to war.
As you watch the amazing displays and exhibits at the museum, I thought I'd share some information about the history of the barracks. Jackson Barracks was built in 1830. Jackson Barracks was built in the 1830s under the Jackson administration to house the federal military garrison defending the city of New Orleans and the lower Mississippi Valley. At the time, New Orleans was one of the wealthiest cities in the U.S., as the commerce of the lands west of the Allegheny Mountains was transported by steamboat and flatboats down the Mississippi River. The post was originally referred to as the U.S. Barracks or the New Orleans Barracks. It was rechristened in 1866 to honor Andrew Jackson, who was not only the commander-in-chief during its construction, but is a revered figure in the area for routing the British in the 1815 Battle of New Orleans. The first troops to occupy the New Orleans Barracks was the 2nd Regiment of Dragoons, commanded by Colonel David Twiggs, who later commanded the defense of New Orleans as a Confederate general in the Civil War. A little bit of mystery lies in the ground. It is unknown how many people are actually buried here and who they were. The cemetery was in use on the grounds starting in 1837, all the way until the Civil War. In 1864, Chalmette National Cemetery was established by the occupying Union Army. All new military burials were at the Chalmette Field after 1866. Many of the military burials interred at Jackson Barracks were reburied at the Chalmette location. The post cemetery was gradually abandoned and forgotten, and then buildings went up on the site, leaving no visible signs of the burial ground. On January 17, 2005, a construction crew renovating a building on the site came across human remains. Mexican War and the Barracks Hospital. As tension with Mexico grew, General Zachary Taylor was ordered to assemble an army of observation in Texas. Hostilities erupted in 1846, and the barracks once again served as an assembly and embarkation point for volunteer militia and regular Army troops being sent to Texas and Mexico. Several Army officers who passed through the barracks would go on to gain fame as presidents and Civil War generals, including Zachary Taylor, Ulysses S. Grant, Louisiana native P.G.T. Beauregard, James Longstreet, George McClellan, and Robert E. Lee. A tradition dating from this period, largely forgotten today, is Jackson Barracks' role in New Orleans' Mardi Gras celebrations. Rex, the king of Carnival, would send an order to the commandant to receive him. He would then arrive at the barracks by boat to be welcomed on the parade ground by a battalion of infantry and a regimental band. The post commander would formally hand over control of the city to Rex and then escort him into New Orleans to begin his reign over the festivities. At the beginning of the 20th century, Jackson Barracks saw little drama but remained active as the War Department was modernizing American seacoast defenses. In 1912, a new river levee was constructed, necessitating the demolition of the original post headquarters and 2 of the guard towers. These are the only buildings from the original garrison that have been lost to date. Louisiana National Guard moves in. So, after World War I, Jackson Barracks was abandoned by the U.S. Army. It was saved from extinction, however, when the state requested that the post be turned over to the Louisiana National Guard. On February 1st, 1922, the state took control of the installation, with Jackson Barracks becoming the home of the famous Washington Artillery, the 141st Field Artillery Unit, and the 108th Cavalry, with their many horses. During this period, polo became a popular pastime on the grounds and attracted spectators from New Orleans. Leisure activities at the facilities would decrease as the national and world economy declined rapidly at the end of the 1920s. World War II at the barracks. As the U.S. entered the Second World War, New Orleans became a major port supporting the war effort throughout the Americas and in both theaters. Per the lease agreement between the U.S. Army and the Louisiana National Guard, most of Jackson Barracks reverted to the U.S. War Department's control. It buzzed with activity as hundreds of military and civilian employees populated the post, conducting support operations. The grounds and facilities were once again used as a processing center and a point of embarkation. An interesting note is that German and Italian prisoners of war were also detained on site at the post. A few buildings remained under state control, and the entire post was returned to Louisiana National Guard control after the war. Jackson Barracks today. With the efforts of Major General O.J. Daigle, the Louisiana Adjutant General at the time, the architectural and historical significance of Jackson Barracks was recognized in 1976, when it was listed on the National Register of Historic Districts and National Significances. With the exception of the original headquarters buildings and the two corner towers, the historic district retains its original antebellum layout and architectural integrity. Many believe Jackson Barracks has the finest collection of architecturally significant antebellum structures in the United States. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit the Gulf Coast, severely flooding New Orleans and St. Bernard Parish. Jackson Barracks did not escape the storm's wrath. Every building on the facility was flooded, with water depths ranging from 3 feet at the levee to more than 18 feet at the northernmost part of the property. In its long history, the garrison had never faced adversity of these proportions. After riding out Katrina's fury, the guardsmen stationed at Jackson Barracks immediately took boats into the surrounding neighborhoods to rescue survivors from roofs and attics. Those civilians were eventually evacuated and the water drained, but every structure on Jackson Barracks was damaged or destroyed. The Louisiana National Guard headquarters was temporarily relocated to Camp Beauregard. A Herculean effort to rebuild the barracks was underway. A new master plan was created for the reconstruction of the historic facility. New readiness centers for the Joint Force headquarters, the 141st Field Artillery, and the 139th Regional Support Group were designed and constructed, as well as the Adjutant General's headquarters. In addition to these structures, a multi-use museum complex, temporary lodging, and the historical housing on Jackson Barracks was redone. The antebellum buildings of the original garrison were carefully restored and returned to their original function as residential housing. The Louisiana National Guard Museum at Jackson Barracks tells the story of Louisiana citizen soldiers from the colonial period to current operations, as you've seen through these videos. The vivid story of Louisiana's militia begins with early French settlement, moves through Spanish involvement in the American Revolution, the U.S. purchase of the territory, statehood, the Battle of New Orleans, the Mexican War, the Civil War, both World Wars, the Cold War, and into the global war on terror. The ever-evolving history also covers National Guard involvement in peacetime operations, such as many natural and man-made disasters. The museum, located at Jackson Barracks, originated as the Louisiana Military History and State Weapons Museum, established by Louisiana Act 1974, number 688-1, which detailed the location of the museum at Jackson Barracks. Under the management and supervision of a 9-member board of management appointed by the governor. In 1977, the museum moved into the newly renovated historic 1837 Powder Magazine on the Jackson Barracks site. 10 years later, the Friends of Jackson Barracks Museum Incorporated established their board of directors and obtained federal recognition as a non-profit organization. As we've talked about before, in 2005, Hurricane Katrina and Rita contributed to the destruction of all 7 of the museum structures. Over 11 feet of floodwater impacted the entire collection, with 85% of the museum's collection being damaged and 15% being permanently destroyed. Restoration and conservation activities began soon after the storm and continue to this date. 2009 brought forth the groundbreaking and construction of the new multi-use complex, bringing all the museum, archive, and historic program activities under one roof. And in 2012, the complex was once again inhabited. The facility is now open to the public, telling the story of the Louisiana National Guard, and continues to work closely with the Friends of the Louisiana National Guard Museum in an effort to revitalize its current exhibit. I hope you enjoyed that as well as these videos. All right, Mr. Blade, we just finished the Louisiana National Guard Museum at Jackson Barracks. Very, very cool. As we sit here on an original Willys Jeep, surrounded by tanks and airplanes and all kind of stuff. You'd recommend it to folks coming to town?
Yes.
Price is right, too. Donation.
Zero.
It's free, but they do ask for donations. Please leave a donation. You will be amazed. Hopefully,
they have a really cool display of weapons, and it's the coolest thing ever.
The videos you saw do not do it justice. It is so much nicer.
They have so many different guns.
A lot of interactive stuff.
So much interactive stuff.
You can touch stuff, get in vehicles.
High five a bunch of little green hands.
It's the little green hands tell you what you can touch. So, thank you for being part of this. Check out our website, www.bigeasylife.org. And remember, thanks for being part of our Big Easy Life.